Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Conscious Conversation. And today I'm in conversation with Stuti Mehrotra, the founder and director of Linden Montessori in Bangalore, India. We've had many interesting talks, but this one I think is going to be the one that's most interesting for most parents because the conflict that we have with the screen time is just increasing. So today our topic, like you have guessed rightly, is screen time and how it influences our children. And we are going to cover three main areas. That is, what does screen time really do to our children? When is it appropriate? What is appropriate? How much of screen time? And of course, what can we do instead?
So I think first and foremost, I would like to define, what is screen time? What do we consider as screen time? So, of course, the time that, anybody's spending on a smartphone, a laptop, a desktop, iPad, game console, all of that is screen time. And, if I may say so, like in today's tech-driven world and, media-driven world, we very easily, give screens to our children to distract them, to keep them occupied. So now what we are seeing in schools is that their attention span is very, very less. So because of their exposure to screens that is happening at home, so much so that children are made to eat also in front of the screens, and they would not eat at all unless there is something playing in front of them. So it has gone that bad. Though we don't realize it as parents, I'm sure that they are all well intentioned. The intentions are all good, but maybe we're not realizing that this is really the kind of harm it is doing to the kids. Mm-hmm. As a school, we once in 2 weeks is when we actually do play videos for them, which are strictly related to the unit of learning that is going on in the classroom, which is for 10 to 15 minutes. If you look at the development that happens, right, of young kids, so when the child is born till 6 years of age, and we say that this is the time that the brain development happens the most. The neuron connection is happening at a very fast pace. Mm-hmm. And this is happening because of the external stimuli. You have to have that external stimuli, the environment basically, which is helping this development happen. You need to work with their hands. There is a very strong brain and hand connection. And we know that especially in a Montessori school where all the Montessori materials are so tactile and experiential. They're all hands-on, which is why, because your hands will send the signals to the brain and they can shape the brain. So we need to give them off-screen experiences for their brain development to happen. The children who are exposed to screens also have lesser empathy. Mm-hmm. And the reason being because they are so used to looking at screens that they do not look at human faces, right? I mean, we are not giving them exposure to human interaction. So they don't understand what is making somebody happy, somebody sad, somebody angry. So they are, losing out on developing that emotional intelligence, empathy for others. So again, this is really detrimental to the way they are growing, and how do we expect them to be happy individuals? But I mean, emotional intelligence is much required to know yourself and others.
Just to add to that, being a conscious parenting coach myself and seeing children in the Montessori area as well, putting them together, we have seen that for a child to feel secure, they need attachments which are secure when they are growing up. And the most secure attachment is the attachment that they develop with their parents when they are growing up, when they're very little. When you have a secure attachment, Stuti, you can grow up to be an adult with your emotional intelligence well developed. So, but when you see these children with the screens and like you rightly said, eating and doing everything in front of the screen, the attachment is starting to build with this device, with this machine, which is not giving those emotional feedback that I need for me to grow. So the development of the child is so much linked to life and human relations, which is what takes a toll when we put our children in front of screens just to buy time for ourselves, or because the child's tantrum is beyond our capacity to look into or manage. We say we give in to those things. But like I heard one of the talks where somebody said, would you give a 2-year-old alcohol just because you're drinking it and he or she wants it? You wouldn't. Would you allow sexual practices for a 5-year-old? You wouldn't, because the body is not yet ready. Correct. So this takes us to our segues beautifully into our next question, Stuti, which we wanted to discuss. Then, what is the appropriate age? What is appropriate? What are we looking at? Because let's understand the predicament of the parents as well. They are in a society where this screen time is rampant, and I think the more people parents that watch this video, it's helpful for other parents. We can help each other. When I send my child to your house, I know you think of these things so that you will take care to make the children safe digitally, correct? And the same vice versa. What would you suggest is the right time, or what is the parameter?
Sure. So if you look at, WHO's guidelines, World Health Organization. So World Health Organization says that there should be no screen time for children between the age of, from birth till 2 years. There should be no screen time at all. And they say that from 2 to 4 years, you can give them an hour, less than an hour of screen time a day. In this case, less is more. So if you can totally do away with it, or maybe give, even lesser time for screen, that will be great. But I think it's important then, if we are looking at very, very minimal screen time or no screen time, then of course the next question is that how do we really engage the children in a meaningful way? Because obviously they need to do something.
Yeah, but before we go there, can we just talk a little bit more about, one is how much, right? Like how much screen time or when screen time. But what about developmentally? When do you think that the child is ready developmentally to take the load of a screen time? Like, for example, if I'm putting my child in front of the screen, I have to be able to be in a position to set a boundary, correct?
Absolutely.
So when we say 0 to 2 years, it's impossible for us to convey these boundaries to a very younger child. So yes. Where is that? So what is your thing on that developmental level? Like where should they be developmentally? What are the prerequisites before you can give your child a phone or put them in front of a screen?
Where a little bit of the thinking has started happening, and you can at least tell them certain okay, we can see it for some time and we'll have to close it. At least they can understand that much. Yes, we can maybe begin to expose them to very, very limited content that we know, and which is still helpful to them in some way. But yeah, before that, they are just not ready, because they are still making sense of the world around them through us.
If we said secure attachments are necessary, then yes, we can give them these screen times when they do not rely on the screen to fulfill the emotional needs that they have. Using screen time for its very function is its information and its communication. As long as we are using it for that, there is no problem.
Right.
Of course, after a certain age, when cognitively they are ready to receive, not before that. And 8 years is when that cognitive development really is reaching to a point where I can set a boundary, I can collaborate with my child, I can do something about it. But when we put them in front of the TV to eat, for instance, we are meeting a need through the TV, which is a dangerous thing. Do you agree with me on that?
Yes. And it's also about not really experiencing the food in its true sense of, using their senses. They forget to use their senses, experience the taste, the texture, everything. So basically, they don't know what they're eating also, because the mind is obviously not kind of focusing there. So it's also detrimental to their eating habits, of course.
eating habits and the appetite. When am I full? When is it enough?
Right.
Like even attunement with the body, alignment with who am I? What does my body say?
So, if you look at research again, and it is proving that even if you expose young children to some amazing and great videos, the learning that is happening is not the learning that they will have from human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting to note that when you said that, a child, especially when the child is born, and if any young parents are watching this video, I want to kind of put this as a word of caution that a child, a baby, I would say a baby rather, requires human interaction than machine interaction. So the baby, and they say that baby, when the baby is blabbering also, they are actually giving you, it's kind of talk for them. So they need another human to kind of interact with them rather than a machine. So it's that crucial. It's that crucial for their development later on that will happen. So this will have consequences later in their behavior, in their attention span, in their cognitive skills, social behavior. Everything is linked.
Parents being an active part of the child's life is so very important, like with the physical presence, the mental presence, the energetic presence, everything being there with the child, right? And that will probably take us to the next part of our talk, which is what to do, like how do you do it. So what suggestions have you given parents, and what suggestions have you seen work in your school regarding this?
Yeah, so of course, so now we need to look at what can we really do, and we have to give them quality of screen experiences. So first and foremost is that we can read out loud to the kids. Even a child who's just barely 2 or even less than 2, there are amazing books out there. The ones with, the touch and feel books, lift the flap book. Reading out aloud to them is one of the things we can engage them in. We should look at activities where they are manipulating, they're using their hands. So, Play-Doh, of course, with supervision of the parent. We can use non-toxic paints with them, let them, make a mess of it. Everyday activities are great learning moments. We all know that as Montessorians. So children, they're going in the kitchen and, playing with spoon and bowls, or when they're little grown up, helping the, mom or the dad set up the table, cooking activities, putting their laundry in the basket. These are all everyday learning opportunities, and where the children are actually using their hands, their focus is developing, their brain is, developing in a great way. Puzzles, we can, so many puzzles, knobbed puzzles, knobless puzzles that they can actually do. So these are, I think, some of the activities and ways where we can engage them in an off-screen way. And of course, parents playing with them, whether indoors or outdoors, and being with them, as you said, physically, not just physically, because many times they're there physically, but they may be on their laptop or a smartphone. They have to be there mentally with the child, which is so important. Because when the parent is with a gadget, the child feels less important. It will manifest in tantrums and other things later because they need that attention, and then they seek that attention in different ways.
One thing, the child is not seen, heard, or understood. They're crying for you to see them. Second thing is the act of being on the phone is mimicked by the child. You see, they take their toy phones and they mimic what their parents are doing. And this gadget somehow enters into real life. So your phone gets into their hand and suddenly they press a button and they see this colorful light on, and now they're glued onto that phone. And now they say, I want the phone, I want the phone. When you're busy, they want it to keep themselves entertained. This is how that loop begins.
Yeah.
The circle begins. And it's so difficult to get out of it once you are in it. So the first thing is work on your own screen time ethics, your own screen time manners, your own screen time relationship, your digital relationship. What is it? What would your suggestions be to a older child parent?
Sure. So yeah, when you're looking at children who are, say, over 10 years of age and are teenagers, I think with them, there of course is a whole range of activities, because now, of course, they are, much grown up and they're more responsible. So one, I would say that, taking, even though we can do this with younger children also, but it's more fun with the older kids. And we should take them out for when we're doing the grocery shopping of the house, we should engage them in making that list. And, obviously, which will, where we don't want them to just keep sitting in front of the TV, and obviously we want them to take that time off. I think drawing, painting, or even if they have a problem, say, for example, they are thinking about something and there is something they want to find a solution to, we can encourage them to draw that problem. It will give a different perspective of looking at that particular thing, and they may actually get more creative in finding a solution. They say that when you're typing vis-a-vis you're writing something, your brain registers that information better when you're writing it. So we can encourage them to, whatever they're learning in school or other things, to maybe make journals at home, write their observations, write their experiences, and of course get involved in some physical activity in terms of either they're going biking, or they're dancing, they're doing yoga, cooking. Of course, we can involve them in. I think those are some of the things where we give them some screen time, but other than that, majorly they should be involved in so many different activities through the day, which keeps them off the screens.
That if these activities are made so joyful and so exciting, then they don't come here because we are saying we want to avoid screen time, but they come here because they want to have joy, they want to have fun. And
Correct.
That's the reason why it draws them here. Some things that I'm noticing in the coaching that I'm doing with parents of teenage children and older, you'll be surprised, the underlying problem for literally every parent is screens. So what I notice is there's an underlying fear in the parent of what screen time is, what it will do to my child. And so what we do, we start manipulating our children. We start sneaking in on their phones. We start locking devices without their permission. And when you do all this, you are going against the child. And when we go against head on, there is only going to be a collision. There is no connection. Autonomy is the most important thing that our children are seeking. Absolutely. If you start controlling them and pull this autonomy out of them by saying, I tell you when, you're getting on their wrong side. So how do we get autonomy? By collaborating with them. Communication is so important, open communication. I don't mind you having fun, but I'd like to have you to have fun in healthy ways. So can we collaborate? How much time? When? What is important to you? Which show do you want to do? What is the game that you love most? And collaborating with them is something that I think is very important. And for this collaboration, we need to work on our fears. Because if you're coming from a space of fear, you're going to control, you're not going to collaborate.
If you're giving them the privilege of a gadget, yes, of course, it comes with a certain responsibility. So these always go hand in hand. And that's how we are raising them to be, responsible kind of adults. And we want them to be independent of us more than anything else.
There's a reason why they say the child has to be 13 to open an FP account. By you giving permission to give a false age, you've shown your child that there's no need to stick to any boundary.
So children emulate parents, more than anybody else. So of course, we have to walk our talk. So
this, Stuti, takes us to the values and ethics that we have as a family, right? We have to look into the values, the ethics, and that needs to be brought into the digital world in our houses so that we all are on the same page. And first thing we need to check within ourselves as parents where we are.
There's this amazing book called Rethinking the Brain, which is on research on early childhood development and how the brain functions. It'll give you a lot of insights into brain development and how we should help children develop.
We as parents play a very major role in every relationship that the child thereon has, and taking our role seriously and doing these things will definitely help us use screen time rather than the screen time using us.
Wow, that I think very wonderfully put.
It is mesmerizing for children They are just swooped off their feet if we don't even watch.
Right.
So I use these sand timers. You can use it with children. And that gives another important point. It's important to use timers, because relying on willpower at young ages like that is unfair, because the willpower is just developing.
Yes.
Timers are very, very useful, and definitely locks are useful in its own sense. But what I'm saying is do it with a collaboration of the child rather than imposing it on the child.
Yes, I think we as parents and as teachers, we should take that step. We should take that step, and it's the need of the hour.
The first step is to develop our own healthy relationship with the digital world. Once we subscribe and we choose to be a parent, we have got to put our personal time into it, and human presence is required for a child, for a human baby. It's a need that the child which if not met for the children can cause more harm than just spending a few hours of extra time with your children or putting something away to be able to be with them. Thank you for being with me today and having this conscious conversation, and we will be back with another conversation soon. So until then, take care and be aware of your screen time. Bye-bye.